Hello fellow book readers, I'm Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be recapping all of the books that I read in February. The first book that I read in February was Horrid. And first of all, I just want to say I love this cover. This cover is 120% why I picked up the book. It's so pretty. This book is like a YA thriller, like horror kind of book. I thought it was really good. This book is about our main character who moves with her mom back to like where her mom grew up, same house and everything, and some strange stories and strange things are happening in the house. And so it's kind of like, yeah, that like thriller mystery, like what's going on kind of thing. It like starts out with this whole like poem at the beginning, and then we follow through the book following like these same like lines from the poetry, which I thought was beautifully done. And yeah, overall I just thought it was a really good time. I ended up giving it a 4.0. Really enjoyed it. The next book that I read was The One, which I actually already reviewed in my STEM romance video, so I will link that both in the information card and down below in case you are interested in seeing that. The One is about a dating app that basically uses your DNA to match you with your perfect person, and we go through 5 different storylines with all these different characters who have been matched and all these different like problems or issues in the relationship, such as like one character set is like a serial killer and a police officer, so there's a lot of drama there. There's like another one where it's like they got matched but the guy actually just died, so she like lost her opportunity to be with her one, and you know, etc, etc. So these are just like really interesting, fun reads to like delve into this world and what this app has done. So see the rest of my review in that video. The next book that I read was It Sounded Better in My Head, and this book, I don't even know what to say about it. I feel like nothing happened in the entire book. The only thing that I really appreciate about it is like our main characters dealing with like really severe acne issues, which I feel like isn't shown a lot in books or stories. So I definitely like appreciate that. But at the same time, like that kind of was her entire personality, which I think was counterproductive to the representation. This story is basically about our main character and her parents are getting divorced, so she's going through this really tough time in her life. She like has 2 best friends that are dating, so she's kind of like the awkward trio like person, her trio, and basically she just has like really low self-esteem because of the severe acne that she has. And then she, you know, kind of befriends this guy, and it's kind of a contemporary romance from there. But overall, I feel like it just like didn't add a lot to my life, so I ended up giving it 2.75. The next book that I read was Realmbreaker, and this book I actually also already reviewed in my golden birthday book video, so again I'll link that down below if you are interested in going and seeing my review for this, as well as some of the other golden books that I read for this video. The next 2 books that I read were Love and Gelato and Love and Luck, which are 2 books in like a series. Overall, I just thought these were like really fun, light, quick reads. They are set in different countries. It's fun to see these different countries. The first one, Love and Gelato, is in Italy. The second one is Love and Luck, which is in Ireland. And then the third one, which I'm still like actually in the middle of, is in Greece. And so they're all these like cool places. I did like the first one, Love and Gelato, a little bit better just because I thought it was more like on the romance side, whereas Love and Luck was a little bit more like family related. So I think I gave Love and Gelato a 4.0 and Love and Luck 3.0. The next book that I read was Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I believe this was actually on my top like 22 books that I want to read in 2022. So I will link that video as well for you guys in case you want to see what the other 21 books were. But this book I had kind of mixed feelings about. Similar to like Normal People, I enjoyed like how just like blunt and like realistic and whatnot these like relationships felt, and like, you know, our characters had faults and they were trying to learn about the world and whatnot. But I think that this one was a bit harder for me to read than Normal People, just because actually Normal People, I watched the TV show on Hulu before I read the book, so like that helped me like envision what was happening and like actually see it in my mind, versus this one I just read the book as is, and you know, it gets like very philosophical at times. It was a bit harder to like picture without that already referenced material in my mind. So overall I gave it a 3.5. The next book I read was Love Proof, which again I read for that STEM romance video. So like I mentioned, I'll link that down below in case you're interested in hearing about this book. The next book I read was This Woven Kingdom, which again I read this for my golden birthday book video, so I will leave that link down below if you want to see my further review. But basically this book is about our two main characters, one who is a prince who has been told his entire life that there's something bad going to happen to him, he's going to be killed, and then our other main character who is the one that is suspected to be that person, who she is actually a like hidden princess as well, and so she's trying to stay on the down low. But this one was a really fun book as well, so go check out that video if you're interested in hearing more about this one. The next book that I read was The Magnolia Palace, which was my book of the month selection for January. And this book is about two different timelines. One of them is like the 1910s, 1920s kind of era, and we are following our main character, who is a model who was suspected for a murder, so she tries to escape her old life and go into a new life, which is actually being a servant in the Magnolia Palace, or the Frick Mansion, which is our main family here. And then the second timeline is in like the 1960s, and it's about a model who comes over from London for a photo shoot in the Frick Mansion, and then they try to solve the big mystery about this Magnolia diamond. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. If you like going on like old house tours when you're like going to different cities like I do, then like I think you would really enjoy this book, because you are placed like in the like Frick Mansion while they were living there and seeing how everyday life was. So that was very interesting. The only thing that was a little bit just not there for me was they do have these two timelines, but like we are, I don't know, 75% of the time in the 1910s, 1920s timeline rather than the 60s timeline. And so it just felt like the 1960s was kind of misplaced, like unnecessary. Like I feel like not a lot happens in that timeline until we get to the ending. And so it was just I don't know, it seemed kind of pointless for most of the book. But overall, really enjoyed it, gave it a 4.0. The next book that I read was Grown, and this book I also reviewed for my Golden Books. This book is basically about a young girl getting into the music industry, and it deals a lot with like relationships, sometimes toxic relationships, and so I thought it was a very quick and interesting read, and I really enjoyed it. So if you want to hear more about that, then go watch that video again, the Golden Birthday books. Again, another book that I read for the Golden Birthday books was Star Daughter, and this book is about kind of similar to like Greek mythology, where gods would come and then like have their, you know, relationships with humans on Earth, and then create a half god, half human child. The same thing kind of happens in this book with stars and humans, and so our main character is half star and half human, and she ends up going up to like the star realm to spend time with her mom and grandma, and kind of deal with some things there. So it was a very interesting read. If you want to hear more about that, again, go check out my video down below. The next book that I read was the Razorblade Tears, which I read for Kayla from Book and Lala's book club, and this book, unfortunately, I was kind of disappointed in. This book is all about two fathers whose sons were gay and married to each other, and they were killed out of nowhere. And so these two fathers go on kind of a revenge storyline of trying to get like avenge their sons' deaths. They have historically like kind of shunned their sons for being gay and loving each other. So there was like a lot of homophobia, and there was a lot of like, you know, socioeconomic and racial kind of themes in this book. One thing that I definitely really appreciate about the book is like the intersectionality of all of these different topics, and there was definitely a lot of discussion about how people can have different privileges. I think one thing that definitely I didn't enjoy about the book is there is a lot of like violence and like action, and so like if you're into like very action packed movies and like things like that, I think you would enjoy this book more. But personally for me, I wasn't a huge fan of that, so that was just one thing that I didn't love about the book. But overall, it was a really interesting book, and so I ended up giving it a 3.75. On the other hand, similar plot, but much less action, I read Don't Cry for Me. And this book is basically about a father who is writing letters to his son who is also gay, and they did not have a good relationship because of that fact, but this father is like on his deathbed, and he is trying to, you know, repair his relationship, or kind of like explain to his son where this kind of comes from. And so it's like just a set of letters, and so as you can see, similar topics, just a very different approach to it. The last book was very action, it was a revenge story, versus this one is much like calmer, and it is just like I said, like letters being written to his son. I feel like neither of these were my perfect book. Like I mentioned, the last one, it was a little too much action and violence, versus this one was a little too less, like nothing, you know, not much action. So neither of them were my perfect book, but I also gave this one a 3.75. The next book I read was Survive the Night, and this book is basically about a girl who is going home from college, and she, you know, meets someone on one of those ride boards to take her back to home, and there is like this serial killer on campus at this time, and so while they're driving home, she starts to suspect, like, is this guy the serial killer? The first thing I want to say about this book is I feel like this main character is so bland. She only has like 3 personality traits. One is that she has dead parents, 2 that she has a dead best friend, and then 3 she like really likes films and like movies. So like those are her only 3 character traits, and it just, if our main character isn't interesting, like the rest of the book isn't going to be interesting. So that was one negative that I had for it. The other thing is that she has this thing happen where she basically blacks out for time periods, and like in her mind the world like becomes a movie, and I hated that for like a serial killer like thriller book, because it just like it's like using her like disadvantage to like make her easy prey, and I hated that about this book. Not only that, but like there were just so many things that were like inconsistent with her character, and like certain things about the book just like came off as really like cheap and tacky, and I did not enjoy that. It took like 200 pages before anything like actually interesting happened in the book, and I don't remember how many pages this is, but it's like 300 something, you know? So like for it to take that long for something interesting to really happen, like it just wasn't it. However, while like it took that long for something really interesting to happen, I would say like overall like the book kept you reading. Like it was intriguing enough that like I kept reading. Like it was pretty quick to read, so like that's at least a positive for it. And so I ended up giving it a 3.25. Wasn't the greatest book, but like it took me for a ride. The next book that I read was You Had Me at Hola, and this basically is about our two main characters who are co-stars on like a telenovela, and so you know, it's a kind of like, it's a romance book, so like they're working together until like they actually, you know, start some flings. So that was definitely a fun time. I really enjoyed, you know, the cast of like Latina and Latino characters, as well as, you know, just the idea of like off and on set on this telenovela. If you liked Jane the Virgin, I think this one was also like a fun, similar concept. Overall, I gave it a 3.5. The next book I read was Love in Color, and this is a really fun book. It's basically like an anthology of a bunch of different love stories from different areas of the world. But sometimes they had like a fun twist to it. For example, one of the stories was like Eros and Psyche, but like in a workplace setting. So it's like your typical like love story of like the mythology, but like with a twist. And I don't know, I just had like a really fun time with this book. There were a lot of like stories that I hadn't heard of before, and I don't know, it was just a lot of fun. Plus, look at this cover. It's gorgeous. So I gave this one a 4.0. The next book I read was All the Stars and Teeth, and this one was just a fun ride. Another fantasy where we're kind of going on an adventure. We have our main character who is a princess, and she is the only person who has this like specific type of magic called soul magic, and when she is trying to use it, something goes wrong, and so she's trying to like escape for her life, and she goes on a like she runs away with this mysterious pirate. And so you're on the sea, you have pirates, you have mermaids, like you have this magic system. It was just a really interesting, fun first book for getting into this world. The only thing that I was kind of disappointed in is we are introduced to like all of these different types of magic, and I feel like we didn't really delve or like learn that much about all the different types of magic. Like we see the soul magic a lot since that's what our main character is able to do, but there were just so many other magics that I was hoping to learn more about, and hopefully that will actually happen in the next book since I know this is a series. So I am excited to see the rest of that. This book I ended up giving a 3.5. The next book I read was Persuasion, and I actually really enjoyed this one. This one is about basically our main character who was previously engaged to a guy who she broke it off. He goes off, you know, kind of gains some more leadership and a status in society, and he comes back, and it's kind of about their rekindling of their romance. I also learned that apparently Netflix has picked this up for an adaptation, and I am very excited for that. So I think that was supposed to come out later this year, and I am hyped. So if you are interested in reading this, there is no better time than now. Ultimately, I gave it a 3.75. The last book that I read in February is Queen of Shadows. This one, I don't know. I am having such a hard time with Sarah J. Maas's books, and it's frustrating because I know everyone loves them, and I feel like, why am I not? And so I read, I think, like the first 3 of these books like back to back to back, like while I was reading the ACOTAR series as well, and I just was getting burnt out on them. And so I, you know, took some time off, and I was hoping that that time off would help me like rekindle my interest in the books and that this reading experience would be better, and I don't think it helped. Like, it's not a bad book. I like enjoyed the story still. I'm still enjoying the characters. Like, it's good. It's just I'm not as enthralled with it as everyone else seems to be, and I wish that I was. I gave this one a 3.5. Those were the 20 books that I read in February. If you liked this video, then go ahead and like and subscribe down below, and let me know what were your favorite books that you read in February. I am dying to find some better books, so please let me know. And until next time, keep reading. Bye.